afternoon. My name is Donna Fiesel, and I'm your host of The Edge on IC Radio, your source for news and entertainment. You can find us on television, channel 182 on Charter Communications, Abundant Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire Podcast, netnewsnetwork.net. And I just saw the Chick-fil-A ad come up there. Chick-fil-A in Guntersville will be closed for a few weeks.
I just drove by there. I was going to grab some breakfast and...
They're renovating.
Yeah, they have a big fence all the way around it. So,
but they did want me to tell you that if you've won some of the gift cards, you can take them to any of the Chick-fil-A's. Just because it says Guntersville, Alabama on it doesn't mean anything. Brian Brown is with me right now. He's with the Auburn Extension Service. And we've been talking, actually I took classes and I wanted to beg you to take these classes. You know, a lot of folks they're buying land now and they're homesteading.
Yeah.
It's like this whole revival is coming out.
Yeah. I'm getting a lot of calls about that recently where people will call in and say, well, I've just moved in from, insert your state or city here. And gosh, they're from all over the country. I mean, they're from California and from Michigan and New York and Indiana and you name the town and or the state and they've moved into North Alabama, so they're invading.
And I had fun class. All the ladies who were in class were not from here. I was the only one originally from this area.
Yeah, we had a New York and 2 Georgia, I believe. Yeah, so
yeah, and it was fascinating. And so when it came around to me, we were announcing ourselves and who we were. You remember what I said? Am I the only one who is from here?
Yeah.
Originally. So anyway, it's a grassroots organization kind of a thing going on. We're making our own little clubs. And I'm going to tell you what, I have learned so much. I beg you to take the classes. Now, they're coming up just in a few months.
Yeah. So we'll start in August, but right now registration's open. So if anybody's interested in becoming a Master Gardener, we're offering a class in Gadsden, Alabama. So check, if you're in Alabama, just check with your local county. And
but they're all over the country.
Yeah, they're all over the country. So everybody's going to have they're going to be doing Master Gardener classes. So check with your local extension office. Call them, ask them if they have one, and they can give you more instructions.
And a very low cost. I wanted to mention that. I'm telling you now, but I would have paid triple what it was.
Yeah. And, Alabama's is actually one of the cheaper ones in the entire country. So. We're keeping the price moderate. So
that's great. Okay, so we're in summer months right now. Is it too early to plan for the fall?
No, absolutely not. We're kind of coming into harvest season, especially with squash and my little tomato plant. I have one tomato plant, and it was a leftover from a program we did, and I just don't have time to maintain vegetables, unfortunately.
Okay. I'll provide you with tomatoes.
And actually, I don't even like tomatoes. I like what you make tomato stuff with, but anyway, I finally got 2 little tomatoes off of it already, and so it's coming into harvest time. Squash is about to start producing a lot.
Got some green beans.
Yeah, green beans, and so things are coming in. So now is a good time to start planning for the fall. Whether it's if you're having trouble, it's a good time to solarize in July and August. So at the end of the harvest season, go ahead and solarize or start planning what you're going to plant. Some of these cool season crops you're wanting to plant, somewhere in August into September, you want to plant them then. Even though it may be hot and you're not thinking about cool weather crops, that's when you need to start planting them. So start planting now.
You know it, too.
Yeah, so any of the what we call the cole crops, your lettuces, your cabbages, things like that, carrots. Gosh, I mean, there's
Are there some kind of beans you could plant for a fall? And most of that summer crop.
Most of those are summer crops. So I'm trying to rack my brain, see if I can try to remember, but I can't remember any beans because they are Fabaceae. That's the family name.
I'll take your word for it.
But yeah, that's they're all kind of summer. So there's actually trees that are Fabaceae.
Oh.
So there's it's not just beans. They're trees that produce beans. So.
Oh, that's right. Now, there's a tree out at the front. I think it's pretty close to death right now. We need to do something about that. But it actually, worms are in it.
So that's probably Catawba bignonanoides.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, it's catalpa
We
tree.
shorten it. We say catawba.
Yeah. So catalpa tree, but that's scientific name, catalpa bignonanoides, which is a fun name to say. But
It rolls off the tongue.
yeah, but yeah, that's one. You know, there's those little worms that get all over. They're great for fishing.
I know.
That's what we used to do. My grandpa had one. He's like, let's
Uh-huh.
go get some worms, and we had fun.
Uh-huh.
You know, picking those catalpa worms off the tree, and we go fishing with them. So, but yeah, it was a fun time to do that. But they got a little heart-shaped leaf. You know, it's a fairly large heart-shaped leaf, very easy to identify. But they produce a bean, so I think they're in Fabaceae. So.
Well, I got to check that out. So let's talk to folks who have they're coming in from all over the place.
Yeah.
And maybe even if you live in Chicago, even people in Chicago are looking for areas in where they live. Maybe an hour away because they want a farm. So let's say you buy a farm, not a whole lot of work's meant. I'm thinking of my own farm here because it had been vacant. My grandparents had passed away in the year 2000, and then we moved here in 2013. So there's 13 years.
Yeah.
This place was vacant, so it was not really cared for.
Mm-hmm.
What should you do? How do you analyze it? How do you get it
Well,
up to snuff?
Yeah, and there's a lot. It just really depends on the land. We always recommend starting with a soil test. So, soil test is number one. We got to know what type of soil you have, what your pH is. That's probably the most important, and then what crops you plan to grow. I think one of the biggest things when people move in from another part of the country that they don't realize is, and I think somebody said this the other day, is, you know, you can grow almost anything in the South. So you can grow almost anything here, and anything grows here, but that's also anything grows here. So we have a lot of problems with weeds and especially fungi. The fungus here is just unbelievable because we have hot, humid weather, and a lot of fungi just really grow when it's hot and humid. So, you know, just like in your shower, when you get mold in your shower, that's exactly what happens outside, except there's different kinds of molds and fungi that's out there. So I think a lot of people don't realize that that's one of the biggest problems is they're going to have to battle. You know, a lot of people try to grow organically. It's almost, I mean, people do it, and but it's really intensive. Like you have to really stay after it.
Because you're constantly weeding. I mean, it's just one thing over the raised gardens. That was my answer right there.
Yeah, raised beds are great. You know, and there's some, you know, you don't have to spray fungicides, and there's some organically approved fungicides like copper sprays, like copper sulfate, organically approved, I'm pretty sure. And then there's other things that you can do. Don't try things like, you know, people try cinnamon and things like that. I would just steer away from that. Get something that's organically approved. You're going to have a better situation when you use those. So, but yeah, you know, just you know, organic doesn't mean no pesticides. That's not what it means. It means it's grown organically that I have organic approved pesticides. That's a big misconception. Organic also doesn't mean flavor. So when you see things on the food shows and they're like, oh, it tastes like this and it's organic. You can't taste organic. I'm sorry. You cannot taste it. What you're tasting is varietal differences. But yeah, it's you know, I get on my soapbox on organic stuff. So,
and I totally get it. That's another frame of mind I have.
Yeah,
you know,
that's right.
And a lot of it's marketing, I think.
It is. It is definitely marketing, and you know, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's a good thing. I don't want to use pesticides on anything I have, just because. But I know the science behind it too. So you know, if I'm getting attacked by something, you know, there's a threshold again. There's a threshold at which you get to, you're like, okay, now I've got to do something. Yeah. Or, you know, things like right now, Japanese beetles are really bad. It's that time of year. Best thing to do is just pick them off and throw them in a bucket of soapy water if you can catch them. So, you know, if you got kids or grandkids, go outside. Go out there and tell them to give them a nickel for every one they catch.
Oh, wow. And, you catch a bunch of them and sometimes.
Yeah. So that's, you know, that's something you can do. So we try to eliminate using pesticides as much as possible. But yeah, you know, again, that's something that people aren't ready for when they move down here is all the pressures of disease and insects that we have.
Oh my goodness! Everybody in class was talking about, how have you lived here? I mean, it's
just
so
happens.
humid.
Yes, it is humid. It is very, very humid. So, but it is hard to grow those type crops without some kind of intervention.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one of the big things when people move here is they're not ready for is the heat, humidity, and all the insects and all the fungi and all the other things that come along with that.
Something, a big takeaway I got from the class, so many takeaways from the Master Gardener's class, but one of those is I do less finding information on YouTube and I read instructions and labels more.
Yeah, that's right. And
because I've made some mistakes by getting some guy's idea or some woman's idea, which was nowhere near the truth. And then I read the label and I went, whoa.
Yeah. So we always stress that reading the label is the most important thing you do if you're going to spray anything. Even the organic approved stuff, it does have a label because that's required by law. The label is the law. So, actually, if you spray something that's not labeled for that, because there's a lot of chemicals that have the same active ingredient that has two different names based on the crop they're used on. Mm-hmm. So if you spray something that's made for a pasture in your garden or your lawn and it's not labeled for it, that's a felony. Mm. So that's, a lot of people don't know that, but it is a violation of federal law to spray something that's not labeled. So you're using it off label. Mm-hmm. So it's very important that you follow the label. And not just that, there's safety instructions, dosage, how much you're going to use on that. And the reason why they use that is because they test these chemicals for years and years and years on hundreds and hundreds of crops. Mm-hmm. Well, it takes time and money to do that. And so they know the optimum amount that needs to be used. They're not just saying, spray a whole bottle of this on here because we want to sell more of it. No, they know at a certain point, if you spray too much, it's going to do no good. Mm-hmm. So whether you spray 4 ounces or 2 ounces, spraying 4 ounces is no better than doing 2 ounces. So that's why they want you to use the exact recommended value on that.
That's like the person who says, the instructions say I can take 2 aspirin. If I take a whole bottle, that's even better, right?
That's right. That's exactly right.
Don't do that. But do make sure you read the label because, it's power.
Yeah.
It's powerful knowledge.
I spend a good portion of my day.
Saving knowledge,
Yeah,
too.
Exactly. So, don't use too much, don't use too little, use the just right amount. I spend a lot of my time reading labels. I find them interesting because I tell people so many times throughout the day, this is what you can use for this. So it's good to review those knowledgeable, that knowledge and that label. And, usually I can do a decent job of trying to remember everything that it's used on. And sometimes, especially, like on lawns, there's some things you could spray on a lawn but will cause damage temporarily. And a lot of people don't know that. So that's why you read the label to say, if you spray on Bermuda at this time of day, it may cause damage. Mm-hmm. So always read the label and don't be surprised when that happens. So.
We're going to be into midsummer in just a few weeks. So when we come back from the commercial break, let's talk about that. Okay. We'll be right back in just a minute. Y'all hang in there. At Lamone's Mexican Restaurant, located in Henniger, Alabama, and voted Best Mexican Restaurant of DeKalb County, Alabama 2020, we're here to serve you with authentic Mexican cuisine. Order easily online by going to lamonsmex.com or call 256-657-3999 to place your order. We're open Sunday through Thursday, 11 a.m. to 9 p.m. and Friday and Saturday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Whether you're celebrating a cozy date night for 2 or a celebration for a crowd, at Lamone's you'll love our atmosphere and friendly servers. Thank you for dining with Lamone's Mexican Restaurant. Let Rhonda at Rhonda's Elite Tax LLC take the burden off you for all your tax needs. I know because Rhonda has been taking care of my business since 2013. I feel Rhonda works for me because she knows the direct questions to ask to better benefit my unique business in order for me to get back the biggest refund possible. Rhonda is an ongoing student, and she knows tax laws are in a constant change every year. Call 256-281-9903 for an appointment to take the dread out of getting your taxes done. Rhonda is located at 11968 U.S. Highway 431 in Boaz. Again, that number is 256-281-9903. And let Rhonda's Elite Tax LLC champion your personal and business taxes. Jeff McCurdy of the McCurdy Law Firm has been a public service of this area for over 10 years. McCurdy, a member of the Henniger City Council, serves as prosecutor for the town of Sylvania and was named public defender for the city of Rainsville. The McCurdy Law Firm is located at 17326 Alabama Highway 75 in Henniger to better represent his Jackson and DeKalb County clients. If you need to be represented by a true public servant with proven success, call Jeff at 256-996-8701 or send a private email to mccurdylawfirm@gmail.com. No representation is made that the legal services performed is greater than the legal services performed by other lawyers. At Liberty Bank, we're all about community, whether it's to help with a charity fundraiser or help families in need. Toys at Christmas or a local football team, we're here for you. You see, we realize the importance of family. Sometimes it's to build a new home or necessary home repairs. We're here for you. If you like the feel of a small town bank with all the conveniences of a big city bank, we're here to serve you. You will find us at any of our convenient locations in DeKalb, Marshall, Etowah, and Blount counties in North Alabama. You can call and speak with any of our friendly staff at 256-659-2175 or check us out on the web at libertybankal.com. And thank you for your support of our community. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender.
Are you ready?
We all wonder what tomorrow will bring, but the future lays itself at the feet of the prepared and surrenders to the will of the persistent. It's not easy, but today shapes you so you can shape tomorrow. With Northeast Alabama Community College, when the future asks if you're ready, you can answer.
Yes.
Begin your future at Northeast Alabama Community College.
Okay, we are back. My name is Donna, and I'm your host of The Edge on IC Radio, your source for news and entertainment. You can find us on television, channel 182, on Charter Communications, North Alabama, and Abundant Television, found on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire, syndicated there. And on the podcast, netnewsnetwork.net. Brian Brown is with us right now. This is my go-to guy right here. You've got to take the classes. And so registration is going on right now. And also in your neck of the woods, wherever you live, you need to call your county extension office and find out when they're going to have the Master Gardeners classes.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's right. So we'll be offering in Gadsden, Alabama this time. So or I will. That's where my coverage area considered. So so yeah, it'll be fun. So
it is. I'm going to tell you what, so much to learn. I was afraid. I really didn't. I didn't have that much confidence in myself that I would be able to pass this class because first of all, the book is this thick, and I'm like, there's no way I shouldn't have done this yet. I am so glad I did, and you can do it too, and low cost. I can't say that enough. It's low cost. You got to try this out.
Yeah, it's fun time too. You get to meet people, not just the people in your class, but also in your Master Garden Association. So
Mhm.
it's fun to get to know people, and you really just become friends with them. So.
And little trips we took. I thought
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
really fascinating. Who was the guy in Collinsville? He had this guy I've got to get him on the show. He's really colorful.
So that was Rastus Rufus Farms.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I had such a good time.
Yeah, he's very knowledgeable about his stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. And so he gave me some cutters, and he said, "Now what would you cut off?" And I was afraid of the wrong thing. And so I was just barely snipping like that. And he said, "Go for it." And I went, "Okay." I started just going for what I thought.
Yeah.
And he said, "That's right. You'll just make sense."
Yeah, and that's one thing when you're pruning anything. You can say you can have 100 different people, and they're going to prune something 100 different ways.
Mhm.
So it doesn't matter if you've had 40 or 50 years experience or 3 months experience.
Uh-huh.
You're all going to do it completely different. But there's a technique. You need to know some basics, but
Mhm.
just know that everybody's going to do it differently. So
Cleaning your tools and that kind of thing is really important.
yeah, very, very important.
I used to think
Always.
Phil was going overboard because
You
what he'll
can't.
do is he cleans every time we use a shovel or a hoe or whatever, when we're done, he's always spraying that off.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's a
He knew
great
more
way.
than I did, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's a great way to keep diseases from spreading
Mm-hmm.
on your tools. Just wash them off. That'll go a long way, in especially soil-borne diseases. If you get something on your shovel, or if you have a farm implement like a disc or something, or turning plow, if it's digging in that soil, there's something that may catch a ride, and you don't want to spread it to other parts of the field. So
A lot less disease that way.
Yeah.
And then also cutting grass and so we actually, this farm is a working farm. So basically we recycle everything, even the grass from cutting.
yeah, absolutely. So that green inside of that leaf has nitrogen in it, and that is very important. So you can have a compost bin or have a pile, and that's free nitrogen. So we recommend if you're going to cut your grass, try not to bag it. If you don't want it to show, you can bag it up and mulch it, and or not mulch it, but compost it. That's fine. Eventually you'll have some soil. Once that's break down
The
by
best soil, you can't buy it. for
That's
that.
right. That's
You
right.
can't buy it in a bag like that. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like the best.
Yeah. So those microbes, they break it down. The sun, and turn it often. That's one of the key things a lot of people don't do. They just rather than let it sit there. If you've got a bucket or even just a shovel, depending on how big a pile you got.
Ours is a massive one.
Yeah. So just make sure you're turning it often. If you can turn it. If you turn it every 7 days, it'll turn into really rich soil pretty quickly. That depends on the weather and, water and a lot of, rainfall, things like that. But if you can turn it once a week, you'll break it down really, really quickly. So
I'll tell you something I learned too, and this is about watering your garden. And I would water it every day. I was drowning everything.
Yeah. Too much water is just like not enough water. It's going to have the same exact, especially in heavy clay soils, which we have a lot of here in Alabama. In Sand Mountain, there's sandy soils.
It's quicksand.
Yeah.
When it
So, but yeah, there's a lot of, mostly, I would say most of Alabama is a heavy clay, except for, the Sand Mountain area and maybe down in South Alabama where the coastal plain is. But yeah, too much water can act like just enough, like not enough water. So, that's another important thing. Another thing for your garden, if you don't want to, and I think it's a great tip. Well, it is a good tip. It's not my idea. But use drip irrigation if you can. Drip irrigation.
Boy, did I learned a lot from that class.
Yeah, so drip irrigation, the reason why drip irrigation is so good is because you're putting water at the roots. So plants really don't take up water from the leaves, they take it up from the roots. So you need to put the water where the roots are, which is, down below the soil. So if you can put drip irrigation, that's really good. So the second benefit of that is you're not getting overhead water. So if you have a plant standing here and it's watering from up above, what happens a lot, which we talked about, is we get a lot of fungi here. A lot of fungal growth, especially when it gets hot and humid. what you're doing is you're actually washing those spores down on the next leaf, or they're laying on the ground and then they splash up, and it just keeps working its way up the plant. So if you sub-irrigate or you irrigate just the roots, you don't get that water coming from above. You get it, you know, you're kind of isolating that in the center. So you get a lot less disease that way.
I've seen people actually water plants. In fact, I passed by and saw a lady doing this. She had the hose pump out, and it was a tree, a fruit tree, looked like.
Yeah.
And she was actually trying to spray from the top all the way to the down. Now, I wanted to stop, and I thought, well, this lady doesn't know me. If I knew her, I would have said, no, don't do that. I just took a class. It's not my idea. You're doing it the wrong way.
There's a lot of times, especially if I go to, you know, one of the big box stores or Walmart or somewhere like that, and there's a landscape company putting mulch around the trees and making or mulch volcanoes. It takes all that's within me to not go over there and be like, hey, you're doing that wrong.
Yeah, but you better tell me. No, we're friends. You better tell me.
I would tell you, but I'm not going to go tell them.
A strange person.
Yeah, it's like, who's this guy? Who does he think he is?
Like I wanted to stop. I wanted to stop the car and say, ma'am, you're killing your tree. Don't do that. Don't do it.
You know, another thing that I just thought of, it's kind of off subject here, but, you know, everybody, like I said, it's coming into harvest season. A lot of people, I got a call about this last week, is deer. So deer right now is prime time. They're looking for something to eat.
They're hungry.
So guess where they're going to go?
Your garden.
Your garden, especially if you have peas. Oh man, they love peas. I mean, love them. And if you grow in peas, you know.
I've got some snow peas out there.
Yeah.
Stay away from my stuff, deer.
Yeah, and you can be in the city, and there's deer in the city. So it's not just out in the country. So a couple things, if you have deer in your garden, one, and I did find this, I thought it was just something my dad did, but it's actually extension approved. I found it on Clemson's website. You can take a fence and put up T-post, you know, like you do, you know, around a fence. Take a T-post and do 2 layers of T-post, one inner and one outer, and put a something like a fishing line or just some of those thin braided lines that go around that, and somehow it throws off their depth perception. So that's a good way to keep them away. You know, hang some streamers on there. Just to kind of scare them away.
I got streamers everywhere.
Now, my dad said that did work for a while.
This place looks like a used car lot. I've got streamers everywhere.
So, yeah, you can do an inner and outer fence, and that will help. You know, there's things like you can plant plants that they don't like, you know, like castor. And actually, castor's got full, really pretty fall color. So
they
that's
don't like
another way.
Lavender either, and I got lavender.
Lavender, yeah. So there's a lot of plants that you can plant that they really don't like and they will avoid. So, but yeah, you can, you know, things like deer repellent sprays. They work for about a week, and then the deer get used to it, and they're going to come in. So, so be careful out there. Watch for deer. You know, if you have a gun, you can shoot them. I mean, that is a recommended practice.
Not Bambi.
So they're delicious, though.
But you can get 10 cans and cut them up and make little flowers out of them and hang them up, and they're pretty too.
Yeah.
And they don't like those.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing is, deer, doesn't matter what you do, deer's going to get used to it. You know, a lot of people try to put human hair out there.
I've got enough. I could supply 2 farms.
I don't even have enough for me, so
I'll send you some of mine.
But yeah, that's a good way to keep deer away. But they're going to get used to things eventually. So just, you know, you got to be persistent about that. So.
We're going to have to call it a day. How can folks get in contact with you if they'd like to be part of the class or in your own neighborhood? Yeah,
so feel free to reach out to me. My email address is brownbw@auburn.edu. Feel free to email me any questions you have. And contact your local extension office. If you don't live in this area, contact your local extension office.
Absolutely. Brian, thank you so much for being on the show again
Absolutely.
today.
Yeah.
As always, I can always so excited when Brian's going to be on the show. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll be back in just a few minutes with another awesome guest. Thank you, Brian.